Hey guys, what's going on? Steven back again, and I'm back with another 40K video from, well, says it right there on his shirt, Wes Hammer. And the topic for today's video is the terrifying cryptid monsters of Warhammer 40K. I always love these type of videos, learning about all these different types of monsters and creatures and unseen forces and entities and beings and all that stuff. Even though most of them don't really have like an impact on the lore and stuff like that. You know, they're just like, they're out there, you know, they kind of like do their own thing, but they don't really make an impact, you know, on the lore. You know, like, oh, if you get too close to like this little star that's like in the top corner of the galaxy, far away from like everything else, you go insane, you know. Not really gonna do anything unless you directly go there. But there's something there, you know what I mean? But it's still fun learning about all these different creatures and monsters and stuff like that. So I figured since I am doing a 40K video, I might as well dress the part in my Astartes t-shirt. You know, because Warhammer Plus, what they gave us, I think they're giving us 2 coupons off their merch store. They gave us one back in September, and I think they'll give us one in spring or something like that. You know, I kind of missed a discount on the model. I was kind of looking forward to, you know, getting a discount on the model. Kind of wanted another Necron model, but it is what it is. I mean, merch store is pretty good. You know, there's some good things, some not so good. You know, some of the shirts just kind of look like they just taken like a design on a piece of paper and just kind of just stuck it on there. But there are some ones that are really good. You know, I thought this one here was actually really cool. Graffiti. I thought that looked actually pretty badass. Not too bad of a shirt. Although I will say, when I did get it, I don't know what the hell happened, but there was a strong vinegar odor coming from, I don't know if it was the bag, you know, the package that it came in, or the shirt. But yeah, there was a foul vinegar scent. I had to throw this shirt immediately in the wash as soon as I got it. I was just like, wow. I don't know what happened. If there was an accident and my bag or something fell into a broken bottle of vinegar or something, but oof, yeah, it was bad. I don't know if you guys had any issues or anything like that, but maybe it was just me. I was just unlucky. But anyways, that is that's enough of that. So anyways, let's get on to the video and learn about these terrifying cryptid monsters of 40K. Here we go.
It's no secret that the Warhammer 40K universe is
absolutely
chock full of terrifying aliens, monsters, and eldritch abominations of all shapes and forms. The problem is that since the franchise is so massive, most of the time the spotlight gets dominated by a small handful of major factions and characters. So a lot of the really interesting and obscure stuff tends to go undocumented. You gotta remember that the Imperium of Mankind controls 1 million worlds, each with their own folklore, legends, and cryptid-like creatures that terrorize their populations. In this video series, we're going to be shedding a light on the dark corners of the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40K in order to learn all there is to know about some spooky cryptids from across the cosmos. We're going to be talking about an unknown entity that has the population of a hive world so freaked out that they've turned to ritualistic sacrifice in order to keep it appeased. A malign entity that lurks within the jungles of a backwater death world and is famous for taking the skins of any that wander into its feeding grounds. We're also going to be talking about an infamous monster from the legends of old Earth that the lore of 40K tells us is actually real. But everything that we think we know about them is fundamentally wrong. After reading through a whole bunch of creepy and obscure 40K lore for this video, on one hand, I'm super impressed by the skills of all of the writers that contribute to this universe. But on the other hand, I feel like they would all definitely benefit from some therapy. Therapy that they can get with the help of today's sponsor, BetterHelp. It seems like every year that goes by, living in our modern world gets more and more stressful each and every day. And
But yeah, see, I mean, like, a lot of those
us end up
creatures aren't really going to have, like, an
neglecting to take care of our
impact on the
mental
lore.
health.
It's just,
And sure, most of us have considered therapy.
yeah, this creature
but
just
more
hides in
often
this
than
forest.
not,
If you get too
we never
close, you
follow
know, it,
through
like,
on making that
skins you
appointment.
and
There's no shame in it.
takes your skin.
Realizing
You
that we
know,
need
it's
help
really
and
not going
reaching
to
out can be really tough.
impact really
But
anything in the
thankfully,
lore,
there's
which is kind of a
BetterHelp,
shame,
the
but
sponsor of this video, who
still
makes
pretty
something
cool.
as serious as taking care of our mental health more
kind of
accessible,
want to learn about the
convenient, and
vampire-looking
most importantly,
ones.
affordable. They have a massive network of over 30,000 licensed therapists that are trained to listen and give helpful, unbiased advice. So no matter what you're going through, there's someone out there that's perfectly suited to your needs. And BetterHelp is super convenient. Not only can you schedule therapy sessions whenever you want, at a time that's most convenient for you, but if after a session or two you feel like your therapist just isn't the right fit for you, you can switch to a new one at no additional cost without stressing about insurance or who's in your network or anything like that. Getting started is super easy. All you have to do is click on the link in the description of this video and fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs. And
I do
in
kind of
most
like his
cases,
Emperor's Children
within
shirt.
48
It's actually
hours,
pretty
you'll
cool.
be matched with your therapist. Over 4 million people have used BetterHelp to start living a healthier, happier life. And if you think you might benefit from some therapy, then click on the link in the description of this video or go to www.betterhelp.com/weshammer to get 10% off your first month. Big thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. The Curse of Solomon. Deep within the heart of the Calexis sector is a blighted and heavily industrialized hive world that has been gripped by the cold hands of superstition and rebellion. The world of Solomon, as it is known, is one where secrets, hatred, and suspicion have been allowed to run rampant and unchecked in the shadowy places between the manufactorums. Every square inch of this world has been claimed in the name of production, and between the towering monolithic citadels of the hive metropolises,
can you just imagine
is an area
seeing something
that spans
like that?
thousands of square miles and is dominated by rusting pipelines, thunderous processing vats, and fire-belching pyro towers. This area is known to the locals simply as the Interior, and it is home to billions of workers. And most of them live pretty bleak and miserable lives, made all the worse by the constant fear of what the raving and the mad refer to as the Curse of Solomon. A great and terrible beast, a monstrous eldritch thing that lurks in every shadow and behind every corner. An entity of sentient terror that lurks on the edge of the terrified minds of the hive's population. The beast
like a
strikes
giant
without
caterpillar.
warning and with no discernible pattern, dragging away civilians, kicking and screaming into the darkness, where they will be met with grisly and gruesome deaths, leaving nothing behind but bloody tatters to mark its passing. Whatever this entity is has terrorized the population for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The stories passing from one generation to the next. The people here are so terrified of the beast that multiple different groups, be they religious cults or simply bands of terrified civilians concerned only with self-preservation, have turned to the horrific act of human sacrifice to keep the monster in the dark appeased. Mobs of terrified men and women turning against the cripple, the deformed, the elderly,
So no one's ever gone looking for this creature?
Even children, or as is more often the case, an outsider that found themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. The victim will be bound and cast out into the darkness, while the rest of the community barricades themselves behind locked doors. With every sacrifice committed, the sound of horrified screams cut abruptly short, followed by the crunching of bones, is a sign that the rest of the population will live to see another morning. Many of you listening to this tale may find this behavior justifiably reprehensible. You may be wondering how anyone could ever sink so low as to cast out their own in this way. But to understand why these people turn to such horrific actions, it's important to understand just what a miserable existence their life is. Most of these people are laborers that work through the night by light of promethium lamps and drink water rich with pollutants that seep from the still stacks. To be born in the interior of Solomon is to begin one's life with a death sentence, be that a slow, poisonous death bestowed upon them by the higher-ups within the Imperium that profit off of their suffering, or by the sentient darkness that watches them with hungry curiosity.
Would you rather live there and do that work or be a guardsman? I think being a guardsman might be a little bit better. If they let you. I don't know. Would they let you become a guardsman? Or, hey, thank you for wanting to become a guardsman, but we need you here to work on the manufacturing. We need, the stuff. I don't know, but guardsman or being a slave worker.
Curiosity. These people have no control over their lives, and with every new generation, mutation, cancer, and a shortened lifespan become far more commonplace. Making sacrifices to the beast gives them a sense of control over at least one of the greater forces that preys upon them. Those who dwell within the upper spires, and many members of the Inquisition included, dismiss these stories.
Of course they do.
That there is no beast, that it was just an invention of the local population, a children's fable, a ghost story, a boogeyman, a figment of their imagination.
They live high up, so they don't know.
All of their problems on. The scribes and have-dwellers of the Administratum acknowledge just how terrible life is for those that live in the interior, and thus claim the logical conclusion is that the stories of the supposed curse of Solomon are nothing more than the natural human response to the frailty of life. If there truly was some kind of deranged monster on the loose, it would be localized. Its stories wouldn't have spread through such a massive area and be recounted by millions, if not billions of people over such a long period of time, with no credible eyewitness reports to point to that aren't just delusional ramblings about monsters in the dark. From their haughty perspective, the Lowborns have simply invented a mythical beast to give themselves something tangible that explains the bleak hopelessness of their existence. And more importantly, it gives them a misplaced and delusional hope that they can save themselves from their own existence
out there who would want to go and
acts of barbarity.
try to find this creature.
The few individuals that believe these tales have come up with many different theories for what the beast could actually be. Some have claimed that there may be a piece of ancient lost Xenos technology that is capable of causing widespread hallucinations buried deep within Solomon. Such a device could also potentially drive the afflicted individuals into a maddened and murderous state. There are others that claim that the interior is haunted by an unknown external force, some kind of inhuman sentience, possessing a malign sense of reason that is impossible to placate and too inhuman to comprehend. Some claim that there really is a beast of Solomon, some form of ancient creature, be it Xenos or an entity of the warp that predates human involvement on Solomon and is acting to preserve its secret existence. Even though the Inquisition has largely dismissed the beasts of Solomon, there are a few Inquisitors who take the stories very seriously. To them, even though they are a vocal minority, it just makes sense that in a galaxy full of strange, terrible, and esoteric entities, why is it so unbelievable that something lurks within the depths of Solomon and is preying upon its population?
Exactly. You get horrific demons and, demons with horns and hoof feet and giant, massive bloodthirsters and giant alien, Tyranid bioswarms and stuff like that. But, something like this, that's silly. Really? So at least there are some Inquisitors out there that, could be real. Could be real, But, I mean, some of those other Inquisitors are just no. It's really? Really? Everything you've seen, massive Hyro Titans and stuff like that, and all these Tyranid things. But something like this, that's silly. I don't know. Some of the Inquisitors.
There are just too many stories, too many individuals that claim to have been affected by it, that the legend simply can't be dismissed. The people living in the interior certainly believe it to be real, a crawling nightmare, the silent scythe of death that has gorged itself on rumor, fear, and superstition. A monstrous entity with as many forms as the people that believe in it. A savage and unknown alien predator, just as dangerous and terrifyingly real as any of the other monstrosities that dwell within the deepest depths of the void. The parasitic aliens known as vampires. The galaxy of the 41st millennium is home to legions of horrific and disturbing alien creatures that prey upon the flesh of men. The vast majority of them being entities that humans as a species would not encounter until their exploratory efforts brought them into contact with them, our migratory paths bringing us right through their feeding grounds. However, as strange as it sounds, some of these alien species have been known to mankind for far longer, some of their earliest mentions being recorded in ancient crumbling documents preserved by stasis field technology and believed to be more than 40,000 years old. In the days of
Wow.
old Earth, there were dozens, if not hundreds of different distinct cultures from different points in time all across the planet that spoke of a very similar monster, a creature of sentient shadow, a parasite that sustained its unnaturally long lifespan by feeding upon the blood of its victims. These entities were said to be supernaturally strong, fast, and in the strangest, most heretical texts that have been preserved from this time period, some ancient profane heretics even claimed that many of these monstrosities were actually kinda sexy. The lore of Warhammer 40K tells us that the iconic monsters known as vampires are 100% real, but those who lived in the ancient times couldn't possibly have known the full truth about what they actually were. You see, vampires are a parasitic, shape-shifting alien species that spread to every corner of the cosmos and would entrench itself within any alien societies that it happened to encounter. They can take on any form that they wish and have evolved to perfectly mimic just about everything about whatever species they choose to prey upon.
Although that is pretty cool
making them
looking.
almost impossible to detect.
Not gonna lie, it's pretty
However,
cool.
their natural form is said to be that of a monstrous humanoid bat-shaped creature. One with large leathery wings, elongated fangs, and a lithe yet muscular body. Just about every documented vampire was also shown to possess significant psychic abilities,
This definitely
which
sounds more
were all
fantasy.
perfectly honed to make them into a highly lethal apex predator. These powers also made
Because the
them master
giant,
manipulator.
the giant wing ones remind me of what is it? Damn, what's that fantasy? I can't remember off the top of my head. But you know, there's what is it? God, I can't remember. My fantasy stuff just went right out. Because there's like what, the blood dragons. I can't remember the other ones, but there was also, you know, vampires that took the shape of giant bats and stuff like that. And then you had, you know, the Von Karstein bloodline, which looked kind of more humanish and stuff like that. That's kind of what I was getting from the picture before.
And could make all that witnessed them see them as the most charismatic, suave, and desirable person imaginable. Although some records indicate that they could derive some nourishment from traditional food and drink, it was practically minuscule in comparison to what they gained by absorbing the life essence from their victims. Whether that be through prolonged physical contact, the drinking of the victim's vital fluids, or in some rare cases, a psychic aura that drained the spiritual essence of all of those in close proximity. If that wasn't bad enough, it was also said that any creatures the vampires fed upon would enter a permanent zombie-like state. They were fully under its control and would commit all forms of horrific and blasphemous acts at their master's command.
That looks pretty
After having spent some time amongst the population, vampires will often use a combination of their psychic gifts, shape-shifting ability, and extensive knowledge that they have gained about the wants and desires of a local population to leverage themselves into positions of power. A vampire who became elevated in such a way would have unlimited access to spread its vile influence and prey upon the world's population without
this looks like
fear
he'd
of
be a
repercussion.
Von Karstein.
It's interesting to note that in almost every documented report of a known vampire, they are almost always operating alone. Thus, it is believed that the species sees other members of its own kind as a threat to their influence and a rival to their feeding grounds. There was one account of a vampire rising to power on the hive world of Cephian 4. However, its heresy was eventually rooted out by the Black Templars. And fun fact, it was the future High Marshal of the Black Templars, Hellbright, that managed to kill the creature, the act seeing him inducted into the ranks of the Sword Brethren. The Astral Hounds. All the way across time and space, from the solar system to the far reaches of the Halo stars, species noted for having at least some psychic connection to the warp have reported sightings of large predatory entities that strike without warning and seem to materialize out of thin air. These entities take the form of deranged hounds, often depicted with glowing red eyes and a shadowy, smoky body that seems to flicker in and out of existence. Collectively referred to as the Astral Hounds, these monsters are believed to have originated in the warp, and although have been responsible for the grisly deaths of men and women from all walks of life, they seem to be particularly drawn to psychers. More so, psychers with latent potential, or ones that are early in their training and do not have full control over their abilities. These individuals give off a resonant scent that echoes across dimensions and is so intoxicating to the hounds that once they catch a whiff of the psycher's soul, they'll rip a hole between realities in order to stalk their most favored prey. Although there have been several reports of these creatures operating alone, it's far more common for them to hunt in packs of upwards of 6 distinct individuals. We really don't know a lot about the astral hounds, so take what I have to say here with a grain of salt. But it is likely that they're not actual demon dogs. The creatures born of the warp do not have a physical form. They are sentient energy. Thus, when they materialize in real space, their form is often reflective of their inherent nature. Thus, a slobbering, ferocious pack-hunting canid is a physical representation of the darkness within their malignant and feral souls. Fun fact, much like how humanity had spun tales of vampires long before we realized their true nature as parasitic aliens, so too have the astral hounds been depicted in the legends of old Earth. Tales of the Black Dogs, or Shadow Hounds, are believed to have originated in English folklore, and these hellhounds were usually believed to be directly associated with the devil, their sightings being seen as an omen for sinister events yet to unfold. Since the hounds are creatures of the warp and can materialize in any location they choose, they are absolute masters of ambush tactics. It's not uncommon for a victim to momentarily let their guard down, only to suddenly find the jaws of 6 distinct predators wrapped around different parts of their body. What's really interesting to note about these creatures is that they don't seem to have any psychic ability of their own. Instead, they're able to create some form of link between their astral bodies in the realm of the immaterium and the physical mind of the psyker that they are hunting. By creating this link, they're able to siphon off the victim's own psychic ability to generate a tangible body. Now, giant ghost dogs tracking your scent across dimensions is siphoning off your powerful abilities that you have to defend yourself, ambushing you from the shadows when you're at your weakest, and then ripping you apart in a visceral spectacle of carnage and gore is certainly bad enough. But even more horrifying than that is the fact that there are multiple reports from individuals who have witnessed astral hound attacks that say it's also quite common for the hounds to only subdue their prey. Not only are their jaws ridiculously strong, but their bite is also said to have a paralyzing effect. To be subdued by the hounds in such a way is to meet a far more terrifying end, as the creatures will drag their victims kicking and screaming into the warp. Nobody knows exactly what happens to these individuals after the fact. To their friends and family, they simply disappeared without a trace. But considering the fact that the warp is anathema to human life, and the realm of demons, thirsting gods, and horrors beyond our comprehension, it is a likely scenario that having been simply ripped apart would have been a more preferable way to go. The Skin Taker of Fedrid. Deep within the Calexis sector is the backwater death world of Fedrid, a planet dominated by thick, steaming jungles and a feral population of humans often raised to be recruited into regiments within the Imperial Guard. The seemingly impenetrable jungles of this world are exceedingly dangerous and said to house a wide array of exotic and deadly beasts, making it a hotspot for poachers and large game hunters that have come to seek fortune and glory by setting off on various expeditions to hunt its native wildlife. Some of these individuals are nothing more than eccentric billionaires looking for a thrill, while more commonly, those who would make the journey here are poachers seeking to capture many of these insidious creatures for profit to sell to the many arenas found throughout the Imperium. In recent times, in an effort to choke the illegal trade of Xenos, the Adeptus Arbites have been deployed in force to patrol Fedrid and its surrounding system. Despite the dangers and the potential for getting on the bad side of the Adeptus Arbites, Fedrid continues to lure many hunters into its jungles. This is a place where just about everything will try to kill you, from horrifically poisonous insects, man-eater plants the size of a school bus, tons of parasites that will burrow into their victim's flesh and rot their body from the inside out. And here, even the herbivores are said to be ludicrously aggressive and to attack at the slightest provocation. Of all of the monsters within the jungles of Fedrid, of which there are a great many, none command as much fear as the one the locals refer to as the Skin Taker. On numerous occasions throughout the jungles, hunting parties have stumbled across the flayed remains of men, strung up from the trees or upon simple lashed-together frames, a grisly warning to all those that would enter into its feeding grounds. All in all, whatever this creature may be, it is responsible for hundreds of disappearances, and whatever means it utilizes to hunt and dispatch its victims are so effective that to this day, we only have a few eyewitness accounts to go off of. The survivors describe seeing nothing more than a slight blur, a shimmering mirage that darts from tree to tree, and nothing more than a ripple in the air with no discernible form. On the other hand, there are reports that describe the Skin Taker as something like a hole in reality, a moving sentient spot of visual distortion. All of the witnesses describe a scene of utter terror where one by one their party was picked off. The thing whittled them down till only the strongest, most skillful, or perhaps luckiest hunter was left alive. The only thing that it left behind were flayed bodies, normally missing their heads. Behind. Based on these eyewitness accounts, the Inquisition has come up with several theories on what the Skin Taker could possibly be. On one hand, a known predatory species on Fedrid is a creature known as a mantid, which, picture in your mind a giant six-armed praying mantis that stands about 7 feet tall, and that's exactly what these things are. They're incredibly dangerous and exceptionally skilled in the camouflage department, but they're not able to literally disappear into their surroundings like the Skin Taker is described as being able to do. True. Not to mention the fact that the Skin Taker only seems to be interested in the victim's flayed skin, leaving the meat behind to rot in the jungle mud. A pattern of behavior that makes mantids an unlikely culprit.
Too well.
On the other hand, cloaking technology like this is not uncommon within some of the more prominent Xeno species like the Eldari that can be found throughout the galaxy. It's true that the grisly nature of these kills and the creature's propensity to leave behind flayed remains for others to find, it does line up with some of the more deranged practices of the Dark Eldar, a species that's defined as much by its brutality as its narcissism. And because of this, the idea that it would leave behind the remains without making its presence known doesn't exactly line up with the Drukhari. There are even some within the Inquisition that believe that the Skin Taker is some form of warp-born demon that is able to slip between realities without the aid of a summoner. From the Inquisition's perspective, the Skin Taker is obviously a threat to the Imperium's operations on Fedrid, but for the most part, it seems content to be fixated on hunting and slaughtering illegal poachers. So, to put it mildly, dealing with it hasn't exactly been a priority for them. However, the Skin Taker's actions have given rise to several different cults amongst the feral populations. These deranged cultists turning to prey upon their fellow men by pursuing, killing, and skinning any that travel out into the wilds in an attempt to emulate and perhaps appease the Skin Taker. So far, these cults seem to be mostly small and operate in the shadows, but the fact that they exist at all means that the Skin Taker's reign of terror may just be a precursor to something far worse. And those were 4 of Warhammer 40K's most creepy cryptids. Which one was your favorite and why? For me personally, I love stuff like the Curse of Solomon or the Skin Taker, where we don't actually get a real good depiction of what the monster is. I always find that makes it much creepier. But at the same time, I love when fantasy franchises like 40K incorporate real-world legends like the one about vampires or astral hounds into their lore. I just think there's something so super neat about that. What are some other creepy cryptid-like monsters that you know of from 40K that you'd love to hear me talk about? As you know, the obscure, creepy stuff like this is always my favorite thing to research and talk about, and thus whenever I get a chance to make a video on this kind of stuff, I jump at the opportunity.
And I like it when you do these type of videos.
Series, so if you have any leads on other creepy mysteries or cryptids or...
Okay, so there we go. There are the terrifying cryptid monsters of Warhammer 40K. I gotta say, those were pretty cool, not gonna lie. I do agree with him, being, having the ones that are not known and you don't know what they look like and stuff like that is pretty creepy, because it's like, yeah, there's this thing out there. You don't know what it looks like. Some people say it looks like this. Some people say it looks like that, but nobody really knows, so that's kind of cool. But then also actually seeing some of the creatures and what they actually look like can also be very terrifying. You know what I mean? The vampires, like I said, were pretty cool. I was trying to find the vampires. Strigoi. That's it. Yep, Strigoi. Okay. That's what those ones reminded me of. The whole time I was trying to
encounter.
Figure out, because you got like these ones right here who you can kind of think would be like, the von Karstein, bloodline and stuff like that. That'd be a cool von Karstein. I mean, even him would probably be a pretty cool von Karstein, but like these ones here, which actually that looks pretty terrifying, like having the giant like saber-toothed tiger fangs. That's pretty freaky. Yeah, definitely reminds me of Strigoi Ghoul Kings, or Savage Breeder Vampires. Yep, So that's what like these ones here remind me of. I couldn't think of the name of it to save my life. I was trying to look it up while I was making the video, but it didn't. But I was having a hard time because, you know, Age of Sigmar and everything there is all changed around, and you know, I couldn't find it, so I had to pull up the wiki and stuff like that. So, but yeah, the vampires are pretty cool and stuff like that. The Astral Hounds are very interesting as well. You know, coming from the warp and sometimes taking their victim back to the warp with them and stuff like that. How cool would that be if that's, you know, as they drag it away back into the warp, that person that they dragged back into the warp becomes an Astral Hound? That'd be kind of twisted. The Skin Taker, very interesting. You know, not knowing exactly what it is, but it's very interesting. It only hunts illegal poachers and stuff like that. So, kind of seems like a, I don't know, a guardian of the jungle. I mean, a giant praying mantis would be kind of cool, but I think the whole skinning the skin and stuff like that might be a little hard for a praying mantis to do. But still, pretty cool nonetheless. Some sort of giant demon would explain it. What do you say, popping in and out of the void?
I believe that the Skin Taker is some form of warp-born demon that is able to slip between realities without the aid of a summoner.
That could make sense. That actually does make sense. But yeah, I mean, all these things are really cool. But like I said, they don't really make much of a giant impact on the lore. You know, they're only isolated to like this jungle, that manufacturing world, things like that, you know. Unless you go there, you know, there's nothing to worry about. Unless you go into this jungle and stuff like that, yeah, then you have a problem, you know, with the Skin Taker and stuff like that. But it's not like it's going out planet to planet or anything like that. So it's obviously not going to make, you know, an impact on in the lore and stuff like that. But still be kind of cool if I don't know if there's any books or anything like that, but that'd be kind of cool to do a book, you know, like a book on this, like an Inquisitor and stuff like that goes out into this jungle trying to find the answers and stuff like that, and you know, coming across all these flayed bodies and skins just hanging up all over the jungle and stuff like that. I mean, that'd be a pretty interesting book. That'd be kind of cool. You know, that'd be a pretty good horror story. You know, I think that'd be kind of cool. You know, but that's just me. Yeah, so anyways, there we go. There are the terrifying cryptid monsters of Warhammer 40K. So let me know which horrifying cryptid monster was your favorite from this list. I kind of like the Skin Taker. I think that one's kind of cool. Even though I have no idea what it looks like or what it is, still a pretty cool thing. But yeah, let me know what your favorite is. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Links in the description box below. Come join me over on Discord. We can talk more 40K and stuff like that. Suggest videos for me to watch, things like that. There should be a link down below also in the description box. And of course, other than that, yeah, just leave me all your thoughts and comments. And other than that, just stick around. More videos are on the way. And I will see you guys next time.